I'd like to thank you all for staying, and I would like to welcome you again at AUC. I'm going to talk about the policy framework for IBCs. I wish I could have a movable microphone. So I'm going to talk about the policy framework for IBCs. I teach in public policy. I guess they asked me to do this because I also do research on higher education in Egypt. And as we teach in public policy, you cannot talk policies unless you talk about the policy setting and unless you have some clarity about the policy goals that you want to address. So this is what I'm going to do today. I'm going to do three things. One, I'm going to talk a little bit about the policy setting. I'm going to talk about higher education in Egypt and give you a flavor of history, actually, when we do this. And then I'm going to talk about what policy objectives we can have for higher education in Egypt. Then I will talk to you about what policy framework we can think of that would be also very receptive for IBCs to join the landscape in Egypt. So yes, a bit of history. Yes, Egypt has the oldest higher education system in the Arab world. We go back to the 10th century. We go back to Al-Azhar in the 10th century. Azhar was the first transnational higher education institution you can think of. Established in the 10th century, it could pull or attract students from as far as Morocco in the west and to Java Islands in the east. Fast forward 800 years, Muhammad Ali came, had his project for the modernization of Egypt. It was part of his political project to secede from the Ottoman Empire, and the plan was to have a strong army supported by strong higher education system and have professionals for this army. So he started what was called professional schools at the time. Al-Asr al-Aini School of Medicine was started. Al-Asr al-Aini is a famous street here in Cairo, and it's actually still the name of the main medical school in Egypt. This was in 1829. Muhammad Ali's project actually had to falter when he was defeated, but the higher education that he started remained. So fast forward almost a century afterwards, the first Egyptian university was established and was founded in 1908. The Egyptian university, this is how it was called, is actually what is called now Cairo University. Egyptian University was actually founded with the contributions, very generous contributions of Egyptian elite. Thousands of pounds were spent from their own pockets to support this project, this national project. I give you the picture of Princess Fatima Ismail. And this woman, the legacy goes, she is the woman who salvaged the project for an Egyptian university. They didn't have enough money. She gave away her own jewelry to support the new project for the establishment of a university in Egypt. Knowledge for knowledge's sake was the catchphrase of the time. Egypt had hunger for knowledge, had hunger for the modernization, and this project came to address this hunger and to express the views of all the elite and the Egyptian intellectual elite at the time. This is how the institution, the university looked like. I mean, everyone in this room would have some family pictures of this nature. This is digitized. This is not a family picture. This is the cohort of Muhammad Riyad, who became Minister of Public Works in the 50s. This was in 1927. You'll notice there were no women. Actually, the first cohort of women graduated in 1932, and there were 5 women. One of them was the first lawyer ever in Egypt. The other was very famous Suhair al-Kalamawi. But this is how it looked like. And keep looking. They're not very young faces. Of course, all men, you can tell that. Very few number of them. Fast forward. Just remember this picture. Let's just fast forward here. This is World Bank data. 1962 is an important year in the higher education system in Egypt. This is when higher education was declared as a free right in the constitution. And this was part of the national project at the time. You want to increase you want to have an educated workforce, and you want to have more graduates. So you want this, but you know what? You can't just immediately increase the number of higher education students because you have to work at the earlier phases. So the increase did not happen immediately in 1962. You had to work at the earlier stages. So this is why on this graph I show you what was happening at the other stages in the primary education phase and the secondary education phase. 1975, we're just going very quickly here, more than 70 years after the first university was established, we are at a gross enrollment rate of 12%. You can see what's happening. There's growth and then plateauing for quite some time, then growth. Actually, the time when it was plateauing, it was a time when there was high youth unemployment among the educated, among the graduates of higher education. So let's reduce the number of students and focus more on vocational education. That was the policy at the time, and this is why you see a plateau. Then change of policies, we need more graduates. This is affecting our global competitiveness ranking. We need more graduates with higher education. The chart stops at 2013. We're actually now at a gross enrollment rate of 33, and some reports actually go up to 36%. What do we have now? No, okay, no more history. We're in the now and here. What do we have now? We have the largest higher education system in the region. 2.3 million students enrolled in this system. That's the size of a country. We have increasing massification, and this is a term that is the people in education like. Dr. Zalouk is here. So massification, education is reaching out to the masses. It's not just a privilege to the elite. So we have increasing massification. We have more gender inclusion. I mean, the gender disparity is almost closed. We have a 1% difference actually in the gross enrollment rate. And in some discipline, it has been reversed. You see, you go to the classroom and you see more women in the classroom than you see men. We are seeing also increasing differentiation, and this is another term that I bring from the literature on higher education. What is differentiation? It used to be just public universities. AUC started in 1919, but it was just one private institution. But the bulk of higher education provision was provided by public institutions. Now this is changing. I give you this. So this is data as recent as I could get. This is from communication with the Ministry of Higher Education. So where are the students now? I wish I could have a clicker. So the bulk of the students, I'm a teacher, I have to move. So the bulk of the students are still in public institutions. 77% of higher education is provided by public institutions, and 21% is provided by private institutions. What do we have here too? We are seeing that, I'm sorry, I lost track. I was looking at the numbers. This is the opposite of what we have in other parts of the world. This is the opposite of what you would have in Southeast Asian countries. This is the opposite of what you would have in Latin American countries, when you have the bulk of higher education provided by private entities and a smaller proportion provided by public institutions. Now, the number of public and private universities, it looks misleading. So you only see 23 universities, public universities, but the number is misleading because many of them have very large campuses that expand across, that have multiple places, multiple campuses across governorates. And we're seeing a new mode of the provision of public education, where public universities are increasingly opening ad-fee departments. These ad-fee departments are now actually providing, I think, I don't have it here in the chart, about 15% of education in public universities. Azhar is still there. Azhar is still providing, again, providing secular education with specializations. Now, my area of research has been in the lowest part of this table. I always focus on private universities and the legal framework governing these private universities. So the number of private universities has been increasing. When I had this chart, there were 21, now there are 24. But the bulk of private higher education provision is not by universities. Universities are only providing 4% of higher education in Egypt. The bulk of higher education is provided by what we call middle public institutes, 2-year and 4-year public institutes that are not at the university rank, and we also have academies. So the provision of higher education, the presence of private universities is still very young in this education landscape, higher education landscape. What else do we know? So I move with you. I mean, I would consider the previous part a very quick discussion of the policy setting. What do we want? Why would we want to think of policies? We want improved quality. Quality is the name of the game. Everybody focuses on quality now. We want to have improved relevance to the needs of the labor market. We talk a lot about unemployment among the educated, so we need to focus on the relevance of what these students are learning to the needs of the labor market. We need to increase the diversification of the skill base. We don't want just to have graduates of law and commerce, the question you had. We need more diverse skill base in the labor market. We also need higher education institutions to be in a new mode of competition. The problem you have here is that you have a large demand for higher education. You have a large supply of students. Competition is not the name of the game here, because you have the clients waiting at your door, waiting for you to open the door. We want more education. So the problem is you need to start to infuse this culture of competition between higher education institutions, and that's an important policy objective. You still need more access. If we are at a 33% higher education enrollment rate, it means 1 in 3 people in the age group of higher education is only going to university. The 2 other people probably have stopped at vocational education or maybe less. And you want a more educated workforce. This is very good for everything. This is very good for your competitiveness and the global competitiveness as a labor market. So we want more of that. These I would believe are the policy goals, and I would really welcome your input on that. More policy goals could be actually thought about. With that, what do we do? I mean, we've understood the setting, I hope. We're setting together the goals. What do we want? Yes, we want a focused shift on quality. And quality is a very fuzzy term. We talk quality, and it's very difficult to capture quality. How do we catch it? What do we mean by quality? I mean, this is a debate in the literature. A lot of debate goes into what do you mean by quality. Before we measure it, we spend a lot of time discussing what we mean about it. Is it doing the right thing right? This is one definition. Is it having a value system of quality? It's not just about a certain curriculum or a certain degree. It's about having a whole value system that focuses on quality. Is it about what they call fitness for purpose? I am graduating engineers. Are they really engineers? Do they have the competencies? I'm very happy to hear the Minister of Higher Education talking about competencies. It's not that certificate that matters anymore. It's the competencies that these young people are leaving the institutions with. So are they having the competencies needed? There's a lot of talk about transformative education, education that transforms thinking, that transforms opportunities. So we need this. Is this how we define quality? Quality could be any of these or all of these together. But we also need to focus on an evaluation system that's based on outcomes and competencies, not just inputs. And this is very serious. It's very easy to focus on inputs. And this is what administrators can easily do. They just focus on, you know what, how many schools do you have? What is the ratio of professor, student? How many students do you put in a classroom? Or do you have a computer lab? How many computer labs? How spacious is your campus? These are all education inputs that are very easy to measure, but they do not guarantee good education. They do not guarantee the building of competencies. So we need to move to a focus on outcomes, a focus on outputs. How do we do this? I love the fact that Mr. Karam was talking about collecting data and making the data available. If we're going to have an open education system, then parents and the students, the incoming students, should know what awaits them. What happens to me if I get this degree? What are the employment potentials? What is the unemployment rate among the graduates of this degree? We need data. Data should be made available. What we talk about when it comes to data is that there's something called information asymmetry. Providers of higher education know more about the education they provide than the incoming student. So incoming students are coming blindfolded. So we need to make data to be made available for each institution about what happens to its graduates. We need to have a growing role of agencies, what we call agencies of public purpose, who focus on assessment, who do this independent of central governments. And I'm borrowing this from the experience of Europe. And why I do that? Because the Egyptian system was actually built on the European model. Historically, I mean, this is a post-colonial culture. This is what happened. You build on what was happening in the 1950s and the 1940s in continental Europe. So that's why we can follow the same progression. And this is why in Europe they shifted to what is called the evaluative state role. The state becomes the evaluator of all higher education providers. And in doing that, we rely on feedback of students, employers, data from the labor market coming to tell us what is happening to our graduates, what competencies do they have. How would this relate to IBCs? And this is going to be my last chart. It's a big question mark. What do we want from IBCs? We want them to address our concerns. We want them to address concerns of quality, concerns of access. We want to make sure that there is quality equivalence between what is provided here and what is being provided in the home country. This is an essential policy goal. We want to make sure that the mechanisms that these institutions have in their home institutions are actually applied here, so that we make sure that quality is ensured. We want to make sure that the home branch recognizes the degrees that are conferred here. And I mean, from the experiences that were shared, this is actually the case. And part of that is they have the same name and academic program, but this is in the literature. Probably, I mean, I would like to hear from you about that, keeping the same name and the same academic programs. But the key issue is that she wants the IBC to accept full responsibility for student enrollment and full recognition of the academic degrees. I want to thank you for your attention, and again, I keep the picture of my hero when I thank you. Thank you so much.